Good evening, everyone. I'm here to do a little video about a film that I watched recently. And this is a film that was recommended to me by one of my YouTube friends, a guy named Bobby Gass. Bobby, hope you're watching. How you doing? Bobby has been after me for about a month or so now to find a way to either buy or rent or steal a copy of this movie, The Train. The Train. Um, and I'd never seen it. I'd heard of it all my life. But I'd never seen the film. So I was so intrigued by what Bobby was saying about it because he kept saying, you'll like it, that I just sent away for a copy from oldies.com. And I'm very happy to have this. Turns out it's released by Kino Lorber, which is a company which does excellent work. So anyway, so I watched this film and I'm here to kind of pass along Bobby's recommendation to me, to anybody else. If you have not seen this film, this is really incredible. It's not only a good story, but it's a hell of an action film made in 1964, before the time when they started using, way before the time when they were doing CGI type things. And in this one, they were blowing up real buildings and wrecking real trains to make this film. It's pretty exciting stuff. So, okay, so let me tell you something about the story. It takes place in August of 1944 in France, which of course is still occupied by the Nazis. But the Allies are on their way and the Nazis are packing up to get out. Now, at the beginning of the film, there's a colonel named Franz von Waldenheim, played by Paul Scofield, who is not only a typical Nazi, but he also happens to be an art lover. And he's in a museum in Paris where a lot of art has been stored that was taken by the Germans from other galleries in France and also private collections all over France, stolen by the Nazis. And he has decided to pack up all of these paintings. I mean, we're talking Matisse, Cézanne, Toulouse-Lautrec, Degas, Picasso. He wants to take all these beautiful paintings and put them on a train, send them to Berlin before the Allies come in, and that way they will belong to Germany. Or it would probably take decades for anybody to try to get the stuff out of Germany once it's been stolen. Plus the fact that these paintings are worth millions and millions of dollars, and if things get really sad and depressing in Germany, they might need to sell these things and make money. So his motives are very mixed up. But this is a very, very complicated character, Mr. Waldenheim. Very complicated character. Excellent performance by Paul Scofield. Well, the curator of the museum, played by actor Suzanne Flon, goes to the French resistance and asks them to help delay the train, not destroy it, but to delay it just for a few days until the Allies can come in and liberate Paris, and then the art will be safe. Now, the leader of the local French resistance is a guy named Paul Labiche, played by Burt Lancaster, who also happens to be an employee of the French Railroad. He is reluctant to get involved in this project because as he says to the curator of the museum, paintings are not worth risking anyone's life for. They're not worth dying for. Of course, she disagrees because she says these paintings represent the vision of France, the soul of France, and they belong to all the French people. So anyway, he still is not convinced that he wants to get involved in this. Blowing up the train would be quite easy. That could be done in minutes. But finding a way to stop the train could be very, very complicated. So one of Labiche's fellow French resistance members takes it on himself. This is a character known as Papa Bowl, played by Michel Simon, and he is killed trying to stop this train. Well, that changes Labiche's feelings about the whole project, and he decides to take it on. So he and his fellow French resistance members come up with this insane plot to delay this train. They do everything they can, derailments, changing signs on depots to make the Germans think that they are going one place, when what they're actually doing, instead of going toward Berlin, they are actually turning the train around and sending it back to Paris. All sorts of things are planned until it reaches a point where it's almost a personal thing between Labiche and this German colonel played by Paul Scofield. And I don't want to give too much of the plot away, too much of the action. It is very action oriented, but it's also it's a story that has a uh, very moral heart to it, very moral and philosophical, because it talks about the importance of art to a people, to a nation, and it compares the importance of art to the importance of human life. So it's a beautiful story and very exciting at the same time. Now, the film was originally being directed by Arthur Penn, and Burt Lancaster had Arthur Penn fired, and he had him replaced by John Frankenheimer, with whom he had worked before and would work again. He didn't like the approach that Penn was taking to the film because it was going to be a little bit more on the dramatic side rather than oriented toward action. And Lancaster wanted to try to make it into a hit, so he wanted to make it more action oriented. So the production was shut down for a while, and when Frankenheimer took over and the script was revised, the expense of the film was doubled. And Frankenheimer, he must have made a very good deal with the producers, because he had the name of the film changed from The Train to John Frankenheimer's The Train. So it's a little bit of an ego thing going on there. But he still did an excellent job directing this film, and it is a wonderful story. So some of the things that happened, I guess Burt Lancaster did a lot of his own stunts, including a very long tracking shot where he was running alongside of a moving train which was picking up speed, and it showed him grabbing onto the train and climbing up and getting inside of it, which is an extremely dangerous, suicidal thing to do, but he did it. There was also another scene where Lancaster had to roll down a very long, kind of a steep hill, just keep rolling down this hill and across a road. And he did that stunt himself too. He was a very brave guy. Now, Lancaster's performance is interesting because he doesn't, even though he's playing someone who's French, he doesn't try to do any kind of a French accent, no nuance to his speaking voice at all. But it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to matter that he sounds like he came from Brooklyn. It really doesn't seem important because he's very convincing. He's very good in the role. And one of the people he gets involved with in the film is a hotel proprietor played by Jean Moreau, who has lost her husband in the war a few years earlier, and she kind of represents the female side of the whole picture of war. At one point, she says to him that men want to be heroes while we women have to stay back and mourn for them, and she starts falling in love with this man and helping him escape the Germans. Very good performance by Jean Moreau. And let's see, one more thing I wanted to say. I can't remember what it was. Oh boy, my memory is so bad. I guess I can't remember. Something about the production. But I'm lost, folks. Let's see, what was it? Oh, I know what it was. The effects used, there are a lot of scenes where the train yard there's a series of explosions. Now, a lot of these things were done with special effects. The special effects of the time were quite good, but certainly not what you expect with CGI effects now. But still very convincing. But a lot of the things were real. The destruction of buildings and trains, things were actually blown up. Shot on location several places in France and at real French railroad yards, and I guess there were certain buildings and locations that the French railroad was would like to have gotten rid of, and they didn't have the resources to do that. So they let the filmmakers pretty much take over and blow up whatever they wanted. But they used real locomotives from that time, and just really exciting stuff. And I don't know, I guess that's all I want to say. I give the highest recommendation for you to watch The Train. This was released in 1964 in the UK. The following year in the United States in a slightly shorter version. I guess they figure we had less of an attention span or something. I don't know what they cut out. I'm not sure. But so anyway, once again, thank you to my friend Bobby Gass. I finally got around to watching this, Bobby. It's a great movie. Thank you so much. And I guess that's it. Comments are welcome. Okay? Good night.